Maddie and Steve, they set the stage. From classic bouts to the modern age. Every slam, every story, every legacy comes alive with Wrestling Pedigree. So tune on in, the spotlight's bright. The ring is ready on this podcast night. It's Wrestling Pedigree.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Wrestling Pedigree. I'm your co-host, Matty. With me, as usual, is the co-host of Wrestling Pedigree, Steve Hawkins. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, Matty. I am so excited for this interview today. Ladies and gentlemen, Chaz Warrington, a.k.a. Headbanger Mosh.
Hey guys, how we doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. I know you're busy with your just promoting your book and everything else and the podcasting. One thing I want to start off with is I read this book of yours, which is Beneath the Skirt, Memoirs of Chaz Warrington. What made you start to write this book? What was the reason for all of a sudden I got released this memoirs?
The big reason was my son. So I'm in my little, I guess, man cave here, and you know, he's seen the action figures, he's seen the belts. I had stuff in my house in New Jersey that was up on the walls that he never really saw. And then in my little room right here, I was able to, you know, start putting some stuff up. And then the stuff I couldn't put on the walls, I put in like a big giant scrapbook, and I have it like it's a giant coffee table down here. And my son is now 21. So I started writing it. This was years ago. But he started looking through all this stuff, and he was like, Dad, he's like, I knew like you were kind of like a wrestler, but I never knew the extent. And he's looking through all this stuff, and he was like, I didn't realize, you know, he was born in 2004. So, you know, I stopped with WWE in 2002. So he didn't see any of it. He knew nothing. So he's like, wow. He goes, I didn't realize you did all the stuff you did. So that got me thinking like, oh, maybe I should just like jot down like how I got started and, you know, things for him to think about as he got older. You know, he's getting out into life and trying to figure out what he was doing, you know, the grind and stuff like that. So this is what I started doing. I just started writing like certain things down. And as I got writing, more ideas started coming to my head. Stories started popping back in. This started coming back in. And then next thing you know, I was just jotting down on pages of things that I wanted to write about. And the more I wrote, the more fun it was, you know, reliving everything I went through. And then there was a lot of the stuff in the book, trials and tribulations I had with Glenn, and, you know, stuff in Memphis that happened, and, you know, our days on the road in Arkansas making $4 or $5 a night if we were lucky. You know, all of that started coming out, and it literally became therapeutic to almost get all of this stuff that had been in my head for all these years and get it out and get it on paper. And then it was like an off and on project, more off than on, for, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years. And then finally, October of 24, I went back up to Jersey for a high school reunion. And there was a friend of mine, Tori, and she's an editor / ghostwriter. So I was just talking to her about it. And she said to me, she goes, I'd love to read what you have. At that point, I probably had 75 to 80% of the book done. But I sent it to her. She read it and she goes, I think this is amazing. She goes, I think you really have something here. And she goes, I'd love to work on this with you. So that's what I did. I hired her. She's credited in the book as my writing coach. And then so that kind of motivated me to finish it. And then here it is. Now it's out, and it's in paperback, hardback, virtual, Kindle, whatever. And I'm currently working on the audio portion.
I'm looking forward to the audio version. I prefer the audio books, but I have got an ebook. But in the book, you have a foreword by Mark Cardona.
Yes.
How did you guys become friends? Because obviously I could see like the toys, the action figures behind you, but is that the reason why you two hooked up as friends?
Yeah, actually, Matt When Glenn and I hadn't done really anything together in a while, when I moved to Florida and he was still up north, and when Glenn came down, he was like, he's like, yeah, we hadn't, like I said, we hadn't done anything. He was like, I want to do stuff, and so we were trying to figure out a way to get our name back out there again out of nowhere. And literally, how it happened was I took a page out of Matt's book, because we all know what Matt did with social media, with YouTube. So I said to Glenn, I said, we need to just start tagging everybody on YouTube. Let's do videos. Let's just start challenging everybody. And from there, in one of the videos I did, I actually had one of Matt's little mini figures. It's up here somewhere. Oh, it's right over there. Like, I have his little mini figure, and I started tagging him and stuff. And from there, him and I became friendly. And then, then we've met and we've hung out a bunch of times, and we've become friends since then. But if it wasn't for the way Matt used YouTube, I don't know, like, that's when Glenn and I had that little run in Ring of Honor back in 2011 or 12, whatever it was. And so that's kind of how we became friends. It was just me. I kind of said, listen, Matt's got something here. It's worked for him. Let's just steal it and go with it.
That's amazing. Just before we dive into your career, also in your book, you have like the top 3 favorite wrestlers of all time. Number 3, I think it's Magnus T.I. Number 2, Ultimate Warrior, and your number 1 is Randy Savage, Macho Man Randy Savage. What was it about Macho Man that was so amazing for you?
Macho Man was just... he was just so flamboyant. He came out with, the bright colors, the jacket with the strings hanging down. I love the elbow off the top rope. I loved how he would jump over the top rope and slingshot the guy off the top rope as he jumped over. Then, of course, he had Miss Elizabeth with him. Like, who's not going to love, Elizabeth, especially back then. And, I loved his interviews, and just his energy to me was contagious. So that's why he's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. Let's get into your career. I've listened to your interview with Chris Van Dyke, CVV. I did not know that your first singles match, was with Adam Bomb.
Yes, that was my very first match I ever had, was on WWF TV 3 weeks into training against Adam Bomb. Yes.
That is one hell of a diving in head first.
That was totally from me going, yeah, I mean, of course I was going to go when I got asked. But that was totally, they're not going to use you to, just thrown right into the deep end right off the bat with having no idea what I was doing. I barely knew how to bump. I barely knew how to hit the ropes. And yeah, I'm in there. I get thrown to the floor. I get the wind knocked out of me with the clothesline on the floor. I take the shittiest power bomb you'll ever see. I mean, it was so bad. It was great.
Did Glenn train you also?
Yes, Glenn was the trainer at the Monster Factory. So we've come this June, we will be together literally 33 years.
That's one hell of a partnership. With the Monster Factory, if I remember correctly, was D'Lo Brown part of that?
D'Lo was there. D'Lo came. Yeah, D'Lo. So I started in June of '93. D'Lo started coming down. So what happened was D'Lo and his friends would rent the ring from Larry Sharp. And D'Lo was basically, with Reckless Youth, basically self-taught. They basically taught themselves in their backyard. And then they would rent the ring from Larry on a Saturday, and they would run like their own little mini TV pay-per-view. They had smoke machines. They came out with lights. They set them up. They had a video camera. They had ring entrances, that music, the whole thing. And Glenn and I would sit there and watch. And D'Lo just had something, and eventually Larry convinced him to join the school just to get polished off. Because D'Lo's thing was, why do I need to join the school? Like, I already know kind of what I'm doing. And Larry's thing was, we need to be polished off. Plus, you get the school name behind you. And, so he came down. I think I'm going to say that was probably September, October of '93, something like that.
How was Larry Sharp as a coach?
Well, for me personally, from what I understand, Larry was amazing. For me personally, Larry didn't really get in the ring and teach anything. That was all Glenn. But I'm very grateful for Larry for having the school, because if the school wasn't there and where it was, I don't think I would have went away. At that point in my life, I don't know how I would have afforded to go away somewhere and try, be on the road and wrestle. So Larry really didn't get much in there, but the one thing Larry did do is one time Larry would come out of his office. His office was like this way, and then there was a stage. Larry would come out and sit on the edge of the stage and just watch. And one of the guys said to him, "Larry, how come you never get in the ring and show us anything?" And I just saw a couple of the veteran guys start to like roll out of the ring. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should. So I kind of got down and I kind of slid out of the ring a little bit. And Larry goes, "Oh, you want me to show you something?" He's like, "I'll show you something." He got in the ring. He grabs his kid, and Larry had these big paws. I mean, his fingers were like two of mine. And he grabs the kid, pulls him into the corner, literally rips his shirt off and says, "Today I'm going to teach you chops." He lit this kid up so bad. I was like, oh, lesson learned today, never to ask Larry why he's not doing something. Yeah.
You and Glenn end up in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Has the Spiders?
No, actually, Smoky Mountain was the end of the Spiders.
Was the end of the Spiders.
Yeah. So Cornette called us up and said, "Hey, I'd like to bring you guys in." He goes, "I don't like the masks." He goes, "So if you're okay with it, I had this idea." And that's when he presented the Headbanger thing to us. So that was basically the end of the Spiders from that point forward. Because when Cornette said, "You don't like the masks, but I had this idea," and with Cornette's idea, with that being kind of a gateway to WWE back then, and again, we were in Arkansas making $4 or $5 a night, so why would I not want to go somewhere where they're going to guarantee me $75 a night, which was a gold mine?
What was it like in Smoky Mountain Wrestling? We heard some stories, especially when the gangsters like New Jack was in there. It's all chaotic. What was it like with you and Glenn in Smoky Mountain with Cornette there also?
One of the funniest parts about the gangsters when we came into Smoky Mountain was they saw us our first night there and said to Cornette, they're like, "What the F are these guys doing here?" And Cornette looked at him and said, "Well, you guys know you're finishing up, so they're coming in and taking your spot." And the idea for us was we were taping 4 nights of TV. It was supposed to do a match and an interview, and then like another interview that would show the next week, then a match and an interview, and then another one, and then we'd be on the road. And gangsters looked at Cornette and he goes, "Well, F you, we're leaving then." And they packed up their stuff and they walked out the door. Cornette looked at us and he goes, "So can you guys work the house shows this weekend?" We were like, "Sure." So so that was great how that started. But no, the locker room there for us was amazing. I learned more there in that 6-7 months that we were there before they shut down than I did all the time between Ozark Mountain and Memphis. You have Cornette pulling you aside after a match. You have the Rock and Roll Express pulling you aside. Then the Heavenly Bodies came in, and Tracy Smothers, and Al Snow's there. So I mean, it was just the list of talent was ridiculously awesome, and the help and guidance we got was beyond. I can't even put words to it, because without that, I don't know if we would have got to the level we got or even got to where we got.
So when Smoky Mountain finished, and I think Cornette got you into the WWE with Glenn, yeah?
Yeah. So he was, when he left, he shut down, he sat everyone down and he said, "Listen," he goes, because at that point he was working with WWF full time. And he said, "Hey," he goes, "I'm going to do everything I can to try and get everyone a job, to get everyone at least an opportunity. And then once you get the opportunity, obviously it's up to you." So he said he went into Vince. They were going to be in Hartford, Connecticut, which wasn't far from where Glenn and I lived in Jersey. And he went into Vince and basically said to Vince, "Hey, I got these 2 guys, this tag team. They were down in Smoky with me. I'd like to bring them up and, have them, do a dark match, a tryout match or something." And Vince was in a good mood. Fortunate for us. And Vince said to him, "So tell me about these guys." He goes, "Well, you probably know who they are. They've been up here. They've done jobs for years. Chaz and Glenn, they've come up as the Spiders under the masks." He goes, "I had this whole thing." He's like, "Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about." He goes, "Just put them under the part-time contract." He goes, "They don't need to try out. Put them under the part-time contract, and then we can take it from there." Yeah. So that's how that started. So yes, all thanks to Cornette.
Now, when you first came up, you had very short runs as, let's see, you were Sisters of Love. Before that, you were the Flying Nuns. What was the transition like going from the Nuns back to the Headbangers?
Oh, it was easy because we came in as the Headbangers, and
Okay.
Vince came up with this crazy idea when they were doing Shotgun Saturday Nights. The idea of Shotgun Saturday Nights was supposed to be, shocking. It was supposed to be like off the wall. And then, so the very first Shotgun Saturday Night was at the Mirage nightclub. And we were on that as the Sisters of Love / Flying Nuns. And so then from there, we were supposed to do a couple of matches. And the idea was supposed to be, look at the Headbangers. These guys are so crazy. They'll show up as nuns. They'll show up as this. They were supposed to put us in all these different outfits. And I think part of it was kind of Vince trying to change our gimmick a little bit because, Vince pushes the characters that he's created and that he likes. I think he liked the Headbanger gimmick and the idea of it, but it wasn't his creation. So, but the Flying Nuns just wasn't going to work with, all the places we were wrestling. The religious group started chiming in on us and things like that. So, so it was easy to transition back to the Headbangers because that's what we had been and that's what we're known for. So that was easy.
Did you expect that the Headbangers gimmick was going to get as over as it did in WWE?
I don't know. It's a great question. I don't know if I've been asked that before. I don't know is the answer. At that point, it was, let's just go out there and just be us. And then, see what happens. And I think about the thing with the Headbanger gimmick is it's not really a gimmick because I like that type of music. When Cornette presented it to us, I knew exactly what he was talking about. And the Headbanger thing just kind of turned into two guys who get along, who don't care. And as long as we're not hurting anyone, do whatever you want. And that's just who we were. So it was just easy to get it over. And I think the gimmicks that get over the most are the ones that are part of yourself. That's part real. That's part you. That's why Stone Cold was so over, because literally Stone Cold sits around and drinks beer. And at the same time, who doesn't want to beat up their boss? I think those are the best. So as far as Glenn and I getting over, I just think it was just one of those things. It was the timing, because that music was big back then. Right back then, that was also kind of transitioning. People were trying to figure out who they were. And with Glenn and I coming out saying, oh, why do you wear skirts? Well, because we can. And they're like, well, why do you have piercings and tattoos? Well, because we can. We're not hurting you. This is us. If you don't like it, don't watch us. Like, we would come directly out and say that. And a lot of people, that resonated with a lot of people on just do it how you want to do. As long as you're not hurting anyone, who cares? Be yourself.
And that's
Right.
what we do with Wrestling Pedigree.
Yes.
Before I want to quickly ask this: how did the stage dive finisher, for me, the ultimate tag team finisher, how did the stage dive come about? Who created it?
It was a combination of things, but ultimately it started with a dream. Glenn would keep a pad and pen next to it on his nightstand when he slept. And he woke up in the middle of the night and powerbomb and leg drop was in his head. So he wrote it down. And we came down to the school, like he called me about it and I started thinking about it. And then we went to the school and we were trying to figure it out. We're like, okay, so there's a power bomb and there's a leg drop in there somewhere. And it started with, because Glenn was bigger than me, Glenn trying to do a power bomb as I'm running and doing like a running leg drop. So it all comes down together. The timing was hard. Landing was tough. And, if the person sat up too far, then my legs underneath of them. And then it was like, oh, well, maybe we do it off the ropes. It started with the middle rope. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But it's not like middle rope's really not devastating. So then it was top rope. And then it was me trying to do the leg drop, which wasn't good at all because I'm not great off the top rope with things like that. And just wasn't, I was so green. I just wasn't confident enough to pull it off. And then that's where D'Lo came in and he helped us. He took that thing 1,000 times before we got it down. And then that's when we figured out, hey, Glenn, you need to do the leg drop. And me, like, had to pull him up for the power bomb, pull him right back down because it's not a full power bomb. But yeah, that's basically how it was. Glenn had a dream, and the dream was power bomb and a leg drop, and then it took us a good probably month down at the school to really figure it out.
So it was just at the school. It wasn't like house shows that you just practiced it just all at the school.
No, I mean we eventually started doing it in shows, but at first it was like, let's just try it at school, down at the school, because the last thing we want to do is try something in front of people and have it look like crap or hurt someone in a match. Because again, if I'm doing a leg drop, there's a good chance I'm sitting on someone's head or I'm kicking him in the side of the head because my timing wasn't as good as Glenn's, and my balance, like you have to be balanced on the top rope. And this sounds crazy, but for as athletic as I am, my balance isn't the best. Never has been. As a kid running through the woods, there was a creek we used to go across and there was a log. And eventually I just started running through the water instead of going, and all my friends were running across the log to the other side of the creek. Eventually I just started going through the water because I would always fall off the log into the water. So my balance just wasn't the best. You got to know your limits. You got to do things within yourself.
Yeah.
Steve.
Was there a match or a feud that you and Glenn never got to have that you always said, "Oh, I want this to happen"?
I mean, we probably would like to have feuded a little longer or a little bit more with the Outlaws, because those were just great matches. We had such great chemistry with them. That's probably the one that we wish would have went longer. And I don't even really know if you want to call what we did with them a feud, because literally it was 1 week we were working against them, the next week we were with the Oddities, and then it was flipped back and forth, and then D'Lo and Mark Henry were thrown into the mix. So I don't know if it was ever really a feud. Like what they did with LOD and what they did with Cactus Jack, and when Terry Funk came in as Chainsaw Charlie, like feuds like that would have been fun. So probably them matches I would have liked to have had. I mean, they're just dream matches. The Midnight Express would have loved to work, Demolition back in her day, even, Powers of Pain, guys like the Rockers, those would have been like dream matches. And now today, I'd love to work Hank and Tank in NXT. I'd love to work the New Day. I would love Hank and Tank. That would be just an amazingly fun match with all four of us, with their energy and what we do. I think that would be a lot of fun.
I would really hope that'd be like a 5 out of like 11 falls or something like that. Just continuous feud. That would just be amazing.
That would be awesome.
In Ground Zero in your house, the Headbangers, the Godwins, Owen Hart and British Bulldog, and the Legion of Doom was a phenomenal match. You guys won your first WWF Tag Team Championships. How did that feel hearing the news, and who told you the news that you were going over?
The feeling to hear it was just amazing. Kind of my theme of the book is duck on a pond. And for those of you that don't know what that means, if you ever watch a duck on a pond, he's kind of just smooth like this, but underneath his feet are going 100 miles an hour to keep him going, but he looks smooth. That was the feeling. That was actually the feeling most of the time for me. But it was Cornette who told us. And we originally weren't even supposed to be in that match, because that's when Dude Love and Stone Cold were tag champs, but Stone Cold hurt his neck, so he was out. And Cornette took us down to the bowels of the Louisville Garden and down in the parking garage. And we were walking down the hall, and he said, "Boys, come with me." And we were like, "Oh shit, we're in trouble again." Like, what did we do this time? And he takes us all the way down to the dark corner of the garden. And we were like, really, what did we do that we have to be all the way down here? And he goes, "I just want to share this moment with you." And he goes, "I want to tell you guys, be the first one to tell you that you're winning the belts tonight." And literally sat there and looked at him. We were like, "Cool." And he goes, "No, I brought you down here because I know how you boys are." He goes, "Let's all jump around together and scream and shout now, so you don't do it in the locker room in front of everybody." So that's what we did. The three of us jumped up and down. And then when we got the greatest part is everyone knew how we were. Like, we were just excited. We were always just happy. And when we went through the meeting, and they were going through, LOD and the Godwins will be out. So here's how we're going to the finish. I sat there like this because I was smiling the whole time. And then when we got through it all, we got done. And I'll never forget the Godwins stood up and they were the first. They were like, "Hey, come here." And they gave us hugs. They're like, "Congratulations. This is great. We're so happy for you. Like, you guys can smile." And then like Owen came over and Davey Boy came over. And so it was pretty awesome.
It was a really good match also. It was a really good match.
Yeah, I was sitting on the apron going, "This is a rib, and somehow someone else is going to pin someone else, and we're just going to stand there looking like dorks."
You thought that'd be a swerve just coming straight in.
That would have been a big time swerve of us. And someone else pins them, and we go, what just happened?
What the fuck?
Yeah. Okay.
Is it possible to ask who was the agent on that match?
I want to say it was Lanza for some reason. Jack Lanza, I think it was. Yeah. And Jack and them, those agents are old school. So they were ribbers. So again, wouldn't have surprised me. They were amazing, but they were ribbers.
Now, speaking of ribs, obviously every wrestling fan knows the Attitude Era was famous for the ribs. What was the best rib that either you pulled or that was pulled on you?
We didn't really get much pulled on us. Trying to think. I mean, there were so many that it's hard to. I mean, the biggest thing we did was, and we did it to the wrong person one too many times, and Glenn almost lost his life for it. Was we used to we would take a trash can, and this is going to sound kind of silly, but it made us laugh, so we did it. We take a trash can in a hotel room, and you fill it up halfway with water. Now, a hotel room, the door opens in, doesn't open into the hallway; it opens into the room. So you tilt the trash can on the door like this. So when they open the door, the trash can falls and the water goes all over their feet and all over the carpet's all wet. We did that to Ken Shamrock probably 3 or 4 times. And the thing always was people used to say to me, "Why would you rib Shamrock? Like, he would kill you if he caught you." And it's the old saying, I don't need to outrun Shamrock. I need to outrun Glenn. And every time I won by outrunning Glenn, but that one time Shamrock caught Glenn, it was not pretty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh. So we did little things like that because my thing is I didn't want to be ribbed. So I didn't really rib back like in the locker room or anything. And I don't, the last thing you want to do is mess with someone's stuff. And, we had our bags padlocked together when we first went to Memphis, and it was like, yeah, what's the big deal? We drive together. We're living together. Like, we're together every day, 24/7. Like, who cares if you padlocked our bags together? So we literally would just pick up our bags, and we each, one of us would carry both bags. Like, it didn't really matter. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, week or two later, all of a sudden the padlock disappeared. So yeah, so it was like stupid stuff like that. But now I didn't want to get ribbed, so I tried not to really rib.
Did you see Owen Hart do any ribs on anyone? And if so, were there like really, really good ones?
Well, Owen kind of ribbed us a little bit. I don't even know if really it was a rib. It was a joke, but it wasn't really a rib. So he rode with us one night, and he was European and tag team champion at the same time. And the short version is, I don't want to tell the whole story because the story's in a book. But the short version is he was in our room and opened his bag and put out his European title and his tag team title, his belt on the dresser next to the TV, and went in and showered. And we got up and we're looking at the belt and we're like, look, the belt's right there. Like the belt's right there. We were still part-time, so we weren't even there a year yet. Like, the belt's right. Picked the belt up and we were jumping up and down on the bed, like as if we just won the tag belts. And all of a sudden the shower shuts off. Owen comes out and we put the belt down and jump back on the bed, and I'm sitting in a chair like this, acting like nothing's going on. We're watching TV. And he walks over with the towel around his waist. He looks down, he picks something, he looks back at the belts, and he turns around and he goes, "Did you guys touch my belt?" We're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Kind of knew you would." He goes, "That's why I left it out for you boys." And he went back into the shower. So again, it goes back to our personalities, or like what you saw in the ring. That was really us backstage. So that was just us. Like, we were just happy to be there, and they just knew us.
That's real. Oh, man, imagine having that subtitles in the hotel room, and knowing me, I probably was just put it on my back.
Yeah, I listen. If that was me now with a young kid, I'd do the same thing.
I hate to ask this now. How was beaver cleavage pitched to you?
Basically, I had a call from Bruce Pritchard, and he said, "Hey, Glenn was hurt, so I was just sitting home doing nothing but working out." And he called me up. He said, "Hey, we have this idea." And he said, you're going to we have a singles idea, one for you and one for Glenn. And he said, we have this girl, she's going to be your mother. And so it's basically based on Leave It to Beaver. And I was like, okay. And that's kind of was it. He goes, we're going to have we want you to grow your hair out, take your earrings out. He said, we're going to, we have this house in Connecticut. And then we'll be in touch in the next, I don't know, a few weeks or whatever it was. And we're going to have you come up there. We're going to do these vignettes. He said, and then, so you're going to be Harry Beaver Cleavage. And I went, okay. And that was it. That's all I knew until I showed up at that house.
what was it like doing the 4 vignettes?
The vignettes were hysterical. They were so much fun. I mean, the gimmick was the gimmick. Like I know it, it's ranked as one of the worst gimmicks in the history of wrestling. Whatever. If that's listed as one of the worst gimmicks in the history of wrestling, the vignettes have to be listed as some of the best vignettes ever in wrestling. Because I mean, you're talking about I'll have a skin knee. My mom works best on her knees, and zucchini. Pussy loves zucchini. I mean, you can't. There's no rules back then. You can't beat that stuff. I mean, it was just amazing, amazing stuff.
When you had that interview, was that a real? I'm probably be bad saying this, but was that a real shoot or was that a scripted shoot? When
I walked off,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that was all scripted. Yeah,
I was okay.
Yeah, I didn't care. I mean, I was like, here was my thing on it. I know, for years I would build it up as like people were like, oh, Beaver, like they would bring the encyclopedia with the Beaver cleavage picture, and I would like refuse to sign it, and it was dumb on my part, but it was just kind of like just feeding into it and playing along. Then I was like, I'm just not even, just embrace it. I mean, my head was buried in boobs every night. It was hysterical. It made me laugh. It was fun. It would have gotten, if they would have kept it going, I think it would have gotten over more and more and more, and it would have led to letting me evolve into like a different person or a different character. I mean, we all know how those characters don't last. But then when they just said, hey, you're going to be Chaz, this kid from New Jersey, and, you're just happy to be here. I was like, yeah, but who's Chaz? Like, I had no idea who Chaz was. And yeah, it was just different.
I will admit that after the Beaver Cleavage and the shoot interview, it did go that well because, what was it? You were in the, like a storyline relationship with your so-called the mother that was playing in the vignette, and there was like black eyes and everybody hated you behind the scenes. It got really tried to be more real, but it didn't look real.
Yeah, no, when they got into the me beating up my girlfriend thing, then all of a sudden, I wasn't allowed in the locker room and I wasn't allowed in the building. My name wasn't on the list, and everybody wanted to beat me up. The funniest part is it actually leaked into my real personal life. There was a Wawa down the street from my house in New Jersey that I went to all the time. And I started going in there, and they were like looking at me funny. And there was one guy behind who would make my hoagie for me. Didn't want to make it. He's like, "Oh, you beat your girlfriend." I'm like, "Dude, that's TV. Like, there's my real girlfriend right there. Like, that's not even my real girlfriend." I'm like, "I don't know what the hell you're talking about." And then like even TSA agents going through the airport were like, they were like taking my bag and opening it up and then dropping shit on the ground. I'm like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, you've been seeing me come through this airport for 3-4 years now. Now you're throwing my shit on the floor. Like, come on. A lot of people took it seriously.
But that kayfabe was real.
It was real. As much as I tried not making it real for that.
Steve.
Now, something I've always wanted to know. In Wrestling with Shadows, at one point, Brett says to his son, Blade, go bug the Headbangers.
Yeah.
Did Blade go and bug the Headbangers?
Blade was amazing. From the first time we met his kids, they were Brett's kids. They were awesome. Blade would come around. There's so many different shots of us in that documentary of us playing with Blade. And Glenn and I are having a catch with him. The greatest part about that is when I was in Pittsburgh, and when it first came out. I went with Kyoto, one of the referees, and we became friends with a few of the players from the Steelers, and we were going to the game, and we were in there, one of the guys' condos, and it came on. We were watching it. Now, I have no idea what was going to be in the documentary. And, seeing us in there, and they're like, oh, look, there you are. You're playing with Brett's kid. And I'm like, yeah, no big deal. Yeah, no big deal. No big deal. But when Brett said that, everyone jumped. There's probably 8 or 9 of us in the room. They all jumped. They're like, holy shit, Bret Hart just tells kids to go play with the Headbangers. Oh, they all went off. And I just sat there going, yeah, guys, no big deal. But again, inside, duck on the pond. Inside, I was like, holy shit, Brett just told his kids. I didn't know that really happened. That was so cool to find out. It was such a cool moment. To be with a group of guys who freaked out how I wanted to freak out. But of course I had to kind of play it cool. But no, it was awesome.
Diving out of your Attitude Era, you and Glenn returned to WWE in 2016. What was the locker room like compared to Attitude Era and 2016?
Night and day. Literally night and day. When we were there before, guys were playing dominoes. We're playing cards, and you're just running around. Guys are sleeping. You're just it was just kind of a relaxed environment. You're kind of talking about your matches, but it evolved and changed. Now guys are sitting there. That's 16 years later. So guys are on their phones playing games. Guys have, little handheld video games they're playing on. It was more serious. It didn't seem as fun when we were there. Everyone with us, we'd sit there and everyone would just sit in the locker room and laughing and joking, busting balls, talking about, where they were the night before, what they did, how much they drank, who they took back to their room. This was a total different, almost, I want to say almost corporate environment. So it was kind of a shock. But the cool part about it was when we were walking down the hall, there was a sign on the lock on the door on the one side, and it said extras locker room. And then it said male talent locker room on this side. So Glenn and I stopped and we're like, are we extras now or are we male talent? We weren't sure. We literally were standing in the middle of the hallway trying to figure out which locker room to go into. And Matt Cardona came walking out and he was like, guys, hey, nope, you come in here with us. And we sat down with Matt and with Brian Myers, and they pulled us right in. So again, it goes back to how Matt and I, became friends. But it was just a totally different vibe, different, not bad, just different.
I could see that. Steve?
So what does the legacy of Chaz Warrington, Mosh, the Headbangers mean to you?
Great question. I guess I just want to be known as a guy or a person who put it all out there, who was just real to himself and what he thought, and kind of wanted to make a difference. Right now I work with what I do for, a shoot job or whatever you want to call it. I work a lot with kids and nonprofits. I go and I do appearances with kids and things like that. Someone who gives back, because I go back, I still go to shows, and, I'm still doing shows. I still go and, I watch and I try to pull the kids aside. I just want it to be kind of what the Headbanger gimmick evolved into, was just kind of being your own person, doing your own thing, and, be nice, be kind. There's no reason to go out and be an asshole, and, treat people how you want to be treated. So as far as legacy goes, I guess that would kind of be it. I just want to be known as, a good guy who did the right thing, and, yeah, I don't even know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what goes through my head, I guess.
Makes perfect sense to me.
You have a ISPW Legends of Wrestling retirement show.
Yes.
July 23rd at Wildwood, New Jersey.
Yes.
How much are you looking forward, you and Glenn, to this? I think it's final match.
It's funny because I am and I'm not. So I'm looking forward to it because I think it's going to be a great. So Tommy Fierro does an amazing job with ISPW, and it's a Legends convention during the day. So there'll be guys there already. Tommy puts on great shows. He gets great crowds, and what we've kind of talked about doing, I think is going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be fun, and I know what Tommy's going to do. The other part to me that's not looking forward to it is part of me wants to do it to be done in the ring, but there's still a part of me that says, but what if? And I don't want to be, we don't want to be that tag team that says, oh, we're retired, this is it. And then 3 years later, we're still, doing shows and doing matches, which is why when we first put the video out, I said the only really way you see the two of us back in the ring together is if WWE calls or if Japan calls, because I've never been to Japan and I still need to get to Japan. But yeah, so I think it's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great time. And again, Tommy's going to do an amazing job with it. And yeah, so that's part of me is saying, yeah, this is going to be great. The other part of me is like I don't know how to, I've thought about how are you going to react afterwards? Like the Dudleys took their boots off and handed it to the Hardys. John Cena took his Skechers off and left him in the middle of the ring. Am I going to be like AJ? I'm going to take the skirt off halfway and then put it back on and say, yeah, I don't know about this. So I just don't know how the crowd's going to react. I don't know how I'm going to react. I know it's going to be emotional. Either way, it's going to be fun.
I just want to say thank you so much, Chaz, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been such a pleasure to have you on. We say this every time we have a guest on. Where can people find you on the social media web?
Right here. ChazMosh.com. ChazMosh.com is my website. I have, figures on there. I put, different things I do on there. More importantly, that's where the book is. You can get the book there. Yes, it's on Amazon also. Go to Amazon for Kindle, but if you want it autographed, please go to ChazMosh.com. And all my social medias is ChazMosh. Instagram, Twitter, everything I'm doing is on ChazMosh. And then I got the podcast. So Glenn and I are podcasting again. And then I have some other stuff I'm going to be doing. So it's going to be on the YouTube channel. And then also that can be found on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Amazing.
I look forward to listening to you and Glenn for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for joining us. This is an amazing episode. Brought back a lot of memories for me. So from Chaz, from Steve, and from me, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next week. For Wrestling.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And just go and do whatever makes your heart happy. Exactly. Just don't suck at it. Do whatever makes your heart happy. Just don't suck at it.
Now, here on Wrestling Pedigree, we have a saying that we always end our shows with. Maddie?
Enjoy professional wrestling.
Yes.
And don't be a dick.
And don't be a dick. Yeah, don't be a dick.